the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time, so stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everybody. Yet again, another week, another podcast, and lots of fun, shall we say, in its own right. My name is Jen, and of course, I am your host, as always. I'm sorry we are late this week in putting the podcast up. Completely my fault. I have overscheduled myself, which I guess is a good thing in some ways, because that means that I'm not hibernating and getting too much into my own head. But I do believe I'm swinging the opposite direction and overcommitting myself and causing myself some stress there. So we'll get into that later. So, of course, always my right-hand man, Brian, is with us. Hey, Brian.
Hi.
How was your week?
Pretty decent. It was, fairly uneventful for most of it until this past weekend. So,
nice. Do anything fun?
Yeah, I went with some friends to a beer festival in Ypsilanti, Michigan. And if you want to hear more of that, we talk about it at length on there'll be an episode going up here probably in a week or so called The Enthusiast, and then it'll be like Beer Festapalooza, or I forgot what we call them, but the part of it that's kind of relevant to this show was to get into these, they have VIP tickets where you can get in an hour early, because it was from 1 to 5 for the general public, or if you're a VIP member, you can get in at noon. And so I get to the actual place at noon, and I get in line, which if you follow me on, I think I put it on Instagram. I'm at Tsunami on Instagram if you want to follow me. I posted the picture of me in this line. And it's when I first got into line, there's this huge line in front of me. And at that point, there was a big line behind me. Not too long after that, I see the line moving, and I'm like, awesome. And then I'm like, wait, no. I look at my clock, and I'm like, it's nowhere near time for us to really be moving yet. What they did was because at the actual entrance, there's like 10, or not even 10, there's probably 5 or 6 like lines you can go through, where they they give you a couple of tokens that you can exchange for your beer samples, and they'll give you a brochure if you don't have one, telling you where all the breweries are located. Well, but the ones I've gone to in the past, what they do is they have they pull you up closer to kind of pack you in a little more, but they still make you kind of stand into 4 or 5 separate lines. And this one, they didn't do that. They had us all go down, and there's just one big mass of people.
Oh.
And it's like 87 degrees, and the humidity's off the chain. The sun was out, and I'm just standing in this, like, every once in a while a breeze would blow. It wasn't that often, and I'm standing there, and just my anxiety was just going through the roof.
I can only imagine. I'd be going nuts.
And then, a woman behind me was yelling for her husband because they were trying to buy some tickets at the last minute, which the thing was sold out, but there were a few people who happened to have tickets for sale. And what's cool is they'll help people sell tickets. Like there's a guy with a bullhorn. He was helping them sell the tickets. You can't sell them for more than face value, but you can at least move them so you don't get stuck with a couple of tickets. But this woman is next to me, and probably, 20 or 30 feet away is where her husband is, and she's just screaming at him about the price of the tickets. And finally, I just turn around and I'm like, do you have to do that? Like, do you have to yell at him? And she's like, well, I don't want to lose my space in line. And I'm like, there's no line. We're all just crammed in here. Like, if you go over there, I'll bet money you could walk right back over here and almost get in the same spot. You know what I mean? Because nobody cares. There were people showing up, walking almost all the way up to where we were, you know, and we had been there probably for 40 minutes at this point, you know, and it just, I don't know. I'm one of those that it's like, usually you've got to really tick me off to get me to say something. Normally I'll just stand there and silently brood, you know, but it was just so annoying because she just kept yelling for him, and I'm just like, just walk over there. Like, really? It's like, ugh. And so for the rest of the time I'm standing there, I'm sure she's staring daggers in the back of my head, you know, and I just did not care because it was so crammed and hot, you know. And then at 1 o'clock, like, as soon as that line starts to move, I mean, you can snap your fingers and you're through. I mean, there were a ton of people in front of me, and it was probably 2-3 minutes and I was through. I mean, it moves quick. Because while you're standing in line, they come through, they check your ID, and they stamp your hand. That way they don't have to do it up at the front. You know, all they do at the front is they scan your ticket. They scan your ticket, you walk through up to a table, they hand you your cup and your tokens, and then you're into the beer festival. You know, it's
that's good, nice and efficient.
Yeah, it's really fast from that point, but the whole cattle call thing was driving me nuts because before, like I said, we were in lines, and that's okay. I can live with that. But when we're all just crammed together, it's like, oh, because, you know, people keep moving around. You keep getting elbowed and shoved. And plus, I'm not real tall, so I get lost in a sea of humanity. And it just, oh, man, just my anxiety was just, plus the woman behind me, you know. And finally, when I get through, my friend Tony, who's the co-host of Salty Language, he's waiting for me at, like, this merch tent. Well, when I first walk in, there's just all this open area. And I'm like, oh, my God. And I'm just standing there. And he's like, I could tell by the look on your face how frustrated you were with it. I'm like, dude, it was my anxiety and everything. But anyways, it was a lot of fun. There's a lot of, like, you know, beers and stuff to try there or whatever. And, you know, it's fine. They give you, like, a 3-ounce pour. No big deal. It's not like you're drinking pints all day or something. But from that hour of standing in that heat, and then getting inside and not, the first thing I should have done, they had coolers with water, and I should have grabbed some water and probably dumped it over my head and drank some. But I didn't. I went and got a beer instead, and it turns out, like, partway through the day, I was feeling weird, and I sat down in these bleachers, and basically everything was going white on me. Like it was almost like, picture the brightest day you can think of, and then just keep turning the dial up, like, on how bright it is. Everything was kind of blurring, you know, and stuff. And our friend Jeannie, Tony's wife, was like, "I'm getting you out of here. Like, you need to get out of this." I got up and had no idea which way I was going. Like, she actually grabbed my arm and led me out of there. And we went, there was a restaurant we were planning to go to afterward, and I'm like, just let me go back to the room. And she's like, the restaurant is, like, less than 5 minutes from here. She's like, let's go there, get you in the air conditioning, get some cool water in you, you know. And, oh, man, thank goodness she did, because, boy, yeah, that was rough.
Sounds like you probably had a combination of things going on. I mean, obviously you had an anxiety attack, and then sounds like it spiked your blood pressure, and the combination of the beer and the heat probably didn't help.
Right, and looking at things, you know, I probably had some mild heat exhaustion, you know, because it was hot. I mean, and there wasn't a lot of a breeze. Like I said, it was at least 87, I think, most of the day, and we're standing out there at, like, we're at the hottest point of the day pretty much. Right. You know. So I learned some lessons there, but luckily once I got to the restaurant, drank all the cold water and sat in the air for it took about half an hour, and then I was feeling a whole lot better. So I was fine after that, but boy. Well, actually I forgot, when we were walking around, our friend Rose saw me at one point, and I made a comment about feeling weird, and she was like, well, she's like, do you want some water? In her bag, she had cold water, like bottles in her bag that she must have had Raptor. I don't know, something, or she had a bag that has a cooling thing or something in it. And oh boy, I'll tell you, I said on our podcast when I was asked like what the best thing I drank that day was, and I was like, that bottle of water,
right?
Because I'll tell you, I should have gotten one sooner. So, lesson to be learned, kids. If you're going to be standing out in almost 90-degree heat plus humidity and in a lot of crowds and such, make sure you stay hydrated.
Right, and drinking alcohol.
Right. Don't be stupid like me, because
alcohol does not. It may taste refreshing, but it does not refresh.
Here's a conversation Tony and I had yesterday, and we cover this on the other show too. But we were joking about breakfast or something like that, and he made a comment about he said something about beer or something, and I'm like, no. I'm like, I need water. And he's like, beer's got water in it. And I'm like, yeah, but water has more water in it. So.
Yes, water does have more water.
But, yeah, that was, I'll tell you.
Scary, yeah.
When I was younger, Tony and I, his dad took us to an air show at the airport, the local airport. Mm-hmm. And we both missed multiple days of school because we got sunburned so bad, which luckily, again, thanks to Jeannie, I did not, because she threw sunblock at me and was like, dum-dum, put some of this on. Because I forgot when I left home, I forgot some. But I haven't had something like this since then. I mean, I've had days where I've gotten really hot because I'm a big dude. I always run hot. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, it's just, I just may not be able to do this one. I may have to skip the summer one because it stinks because it sells out so far in advance. You almost can't rely on there being tickets there. Otherwise, right. I would just do that. I'd just show up day of and be like, hey, anybody got a ticket?
Or plan better,
Right. That's that's the other thing is planning better is probably the. You
can go and have a good time. You may not be able to have all the beers that you may want to try.
Yeah, and again, I stood out by myself with, for an hour in that heat with nothing to drink. Like, there's just nothing around to drink.
Right.
I should have taken a bottle of water with me or a couple bottles of water with me, kind of a thing, and I didn't. I have one of those towels that you can wet, and then you just snap them, and then they cool off again. I should have taken that with me and just put it around my neck or over my head or something, and, just... Like you said, I didn't plan as well as I should have because I know that me and heat and humidity do not play nice together. Like I never ever have. So yeah, but
Yeah, I mean it's just lessons learned.
Yeah.
I mean even in our great old age that we are.
Yeah. So I tweeted out yesterday. I was like, I went to a beer fest and all I got was this lousy heat exhaustion. So
right?
I don't recommend it. It wasn't fun.
No, it never is. I mean, I've had it a couple times. Thankfully, not severe, but I've had heat exhaustion a couple times, and you feel like crap.
Yeah,
you feel really bad.
That was Saturday. We're recording on a Monday, and I still I slept a lot last night, and I got up today, and I was like, I'm feeling a lot better, and and stuff, and I've been dumping mostly water in my face since because just to make sure and stuff, but. I can feel I felt drained until today. I'm feeling a little better. I'm feeling pretty close to normal now.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Like I said, I don't recommend it.
No, and that's tough. Yeah. I've had it too, and you still want to take part and you still want to enjoy things, but yeah, you do have to be prepared. And for a couple things. I mean, I think. That's one of them for the heat stroke, but also for the anxiety. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, how often do we find ourselves in those situations? You know, you don't expect a crowd to form like that.
No, and the only way I can prohibit that from happening is to buy the VIP ticket next year.
It's either do that or stay towards the back.
Yeah, but the problem is the line is so long. After the cattle call area, there's a line, and you have to get into a line somewhere there. You can't really stand. I mean, I guess I could probably just stand off to the side, but, at that point, though, it's going to take a long time to get through, and knowing me, I'm not going to want to do that, but it's... What stinks is you can't buy a VIP ticket just for one event. You buy it, you pay for the VIP thing for a year. And
so
then
it's more expensive.
it allows you to get into each show an hour, or each beer fest an hour early. But anyway, so it's just, we'll see how things shake down. I mean, it's a year away, so, who knows? But it's just, definitely, if I'm going to try it again next year, I have to over-plan, honestly. Not just plan, but I need to really, really think about how I'm going to approach it, so that I can make sure that I've got options.
So next year at the Beer Fest, everyone look for Brian to be rolling around with his cooler and his big backpack.
I saw a guy, one of the guys had, I don't know if you've ever seen them. They're backpacks, and they have like an insulation thing and water in them. And then on the off the shoulder thing, it's got like a straw.
Oh, those are hiking backpacks.
Right. So I was like, that's what I need.
Yep, you need a hiking backpack.
And I could just tuck some water in that, wear a backpack, and I'll be all set. I can keep provisions in there to keep me cool and whatnot. Become
Brian the Camel.
Yeah. So, man.
Oh,
anyway, so how was your week?
My week was good. I'm trying to think, since the last time we talked, I've just been kind of, kind of crazy. I don't know if I've mentioned on the show or not, but I got my endorsement for motorcycle riding. Mm-hmm. So I went to, that was a whole weekend's worth of classes. So I went and I signed up for that, and I got that. Just so everyone feels nice and comfortable, I'm not riding on the road yet. For those of you who don't know my history with motorized vehicles, especially ones that have clutches, I don't know how to use them. I don't know anything about them, up until the class anyways. The class taught me a lot. But, and I am prone to accidents. So, yes.
Now, to be fair, you're prone to, like, being clumsy, I think, is more what you're meaning, right? Not like car accidents. That would be me. Yeah.
Yes. I am prone to being clumsy. So I don't have the best balance in the world. And so balancing on two wheels, not necessarily my forte.
Well, you just got to get one of those trikes, right?
Exactly, right? Just get little training wheels for my motorcycle.
Well, that's what those are. They have those ones that have the, like, 3 wheels on them. So, yeah.
Right. So, but I did that. I think we did talk about, I went away for the weekend for my birthday. My boyfriend took me away for the weekend, which was nice. And then this weekend, my mother came to town, which my house was not mom ready. And those of you who have parents, you know what I'm saying about the mom ready. Your house has to be the certain level for the parents to come over, or else you A, get a lecture, B, feel guilty. So
depends on the kind of person you are, because,
Yeah, that's true. Some people may not. Huh?
Yeah. I'm not going to let someone lecture me on what my house is like if they're coming to visit or stay with me.
And not to say that my mother would, because just to put the record out there, my mother is an incredibly sweet woman.
She is, yeah.
She wouldn't dream of saying anything other than, your house is lovely. Or the worst thing she'll do is not say anything at all.
Right.
So, either way, you're fine.
Yeah.
But regardless, so I ended up enlisting some help. So I tossed a few dollars. They had a couple people to come over, and they cleaned my house for me.
The way you told that makes it sound like you rolled up in front of Home Depot and just I need 6. That's not quite the story.
What? Like I didn't?
You're not hiring illegals to come clean your house.
No,
as far as we know,
I may have. I didn't check their passports or their work visas.
Right.
But no, I contacted a service, and I had a service come in. So I spoiled myself and had a service come in and clean the first floor of my house and get everything kind of nice and tidy. So that kind of took some pressure off. But it's not like I've been busy 24/7, but every single day I've had something.
Yeah.
And
we've talked about that before, about how, and most people are that way. Like Heno talked about that. I don't remember if it was on here. I know he's talked about it over on Angela's awesome podcast about, it's you have to take care of yourself in order to be serviceable to other people, and if you book yourself completely solid, you get burnt out, basically.
Exactly. And I'm just tired. I'm like just mentally tired.
Yeah.
Very fulfilled.
Right.
You know, it's like I have the last, 3-4 weeks have been very fulfilling, and I'm very proud of myself for a lot of things I've accomplished and I've done. But I just need to veg. I need to put the phone down. I need to just step away from everything and just kind of have some really quiet time, watch a few movies.
Yeah.
And just be,
Right.
And not even have the boyfriend around. Just by myself, dark room, air conditioning on, with my lovely TV, my husband that will never leave me.
Even if it abuses you at times. Yeah.
What?
I said even if it's abusive at times.
True.
Damn TV.
But it hits so good. I tease, of course.
Of course, yeah.
But, yeah, so I'm just, and that's why the last couple nights I've been going to bed early, making sure I get plenty of sleep, and just kind of
right.
taking it a little bit of a chill way of looking at things. Because then, the other thing I had going on is Saturday, so my mother was in town, and Saturday was a family reunion. So I did that, and then Saturday night was nice and quiet, but yesterday, which was supposed to be nothing but just sitting in the house and doing nothing, friends of ours invited us up to go riding at their place because they've got a track. So we ended up going up there and hanging out with friends. So, which, again, it's one of those things that everything I've been filling my life with is very fulfilling and very wonderful, These are great, fabulous things that I love to do. But you just get to a point where it's not, I hate to say too much of a good thing, but it kind of is in some ways.
Yeah.
It's nothing that
I would
ever want to give up.
It's like I said, it reminds me of like when Heno talked about that, it was the same thing. It was that, he is one of those guys that he does whatever he can for other people. So if someone calls him and says, from his groups and whatnot, and says, hey, I need someone to talk to, he'll do it. Hey, I need you to podcast with me. Like when him and I just did the podcast, that was, what did he say, the third or fourth podcast he had done that week,
oh my
kind
gosh.
of a thing. Yeah, so, and, so he's like me, this is the fourth podcast I've done since Friday. So, and then Saturday I had the day I had, so I'm kind of at that like phase.
Yeah.
And Heno was like that, and he was like, at some point you gotta just kind of pull it back, and it's me time. I have to take care of me and refresh myself, in order to be of any use to anybody else, to be able to help anybody or just be who I normally am. It's a good point. It's selfish, but it's the selfish you have to be sometimes. You
gotta be it's like self-preservation.
Yeah.
You have to make sure that you get your time. And thankfully I've got an appointment after work tomorrow, but tomorrow that's about all I have going on.
Right.
Wednesday we'll probably record again. Thursday I got a free night. And then the only thing going on this weekend, I have another family reunion on Saturday, but then Sunday should be a free day.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a little bit lighter. It's still consistent. So, it's not every night, but it's still enough that I'm kind of still, still edgy about it. But, again, it's so tough because I don't want to, the last thing I want to do is, I don't want to be ungrateful, and I don't want to miss out on everything that's going on around me. Because, everything we've talked about, almost on every single podcast, we've touched on the fact that we want to take part.
Right. That's like the whole point of this show, actually, is to take part in life and get out of the comfort zone a little bit. That both of us have a very distinct habit of gravitating into hermiting, essentially.
Yeah.
And it's a tough fight. But you also have to give in kind of to it once in a while, I think, because I think it's just that, I don't know, it's that warm blanket from your childhood, or it's your, you know what I mean, it's a comfort food or whatever. It almost just feels like you have to kind of just wrap yourself in that and just be okay with that for a day once in a while, because if you don't, you're just, I don't know. You know, it's almost like somebody who travels a lot, and then they're like, I just want to get home. I just want to sleep in my own bed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like I love what I do. I try, you know, baseball players and sport and athletes and stuff. They love, like, after like a long road trip, a baseball team will go on like a 2-week road trip, you know, and like I just want to get home. Like I just want to sleep in my bed and you know, that kind of stuff. So
it's like I have my bowl of Cheerios in the morning versus having to go out to dinner or go out to breakfast.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
It's
just
simple stuff.
It's just that knowing. It's just that comfort of. It's just that home feeling. You know.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's, you know, it's tough. And like we've preached about this multiple times about balance. And I think I've just gone out of balance again.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, thankfully it's a good way of sense. You know, there's much worse ways of going out of balance, you know, but I'm still out of balance.
Yeah.
So I need to kind of bring myself back to center.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm working on. So to kind of jump to it early, that's my challenge this week, is to get myself back in balance.
Yeah, I think that honestly, that's going to be mine too, because of mine's not just mentally, but it's a little. I'm pretty close there physically, but it's still a little bit of that too, because I'm still feeling kind of from that, and also like, you know, when I feel like I have to be on, it really frazzles me. And doing 2 podcasts Friday, hanging out with friends and stuff, and that the all the stuff that went on with me Saturday. Sunday was the trip home, so there's still that, like, and all day yesterday, like I just, not all day I should say, I mean I got home at, I don't know, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, whatever it was.
Right.
When I got home, the first thing I wanted to do though was I just wanted to lay in bed. I just turned the lights off, lay in bed, and that's what I did. I took a nap, but I was just like, I just like stretched out in bed, and I'm like, it's almost like that grounding concept you know we've talked about before and stuff. It was just laying there going, okay, you're good, you're home, you're safe, you know, like all that, just in my head, take the deep breaths. Just now it's decompressing, and I have a hard time with that. Not that I feel that I have to get up or on for this show so much or the others, but it's still the idea that 4 is a lot in 3 days or 4 days, you know. So it's, you know, and I'm fine with it. I like doing it. But it's still that this weekend's probably going to take me until probably next weekend to almost decompress from. Just, you know, so.
Exactly. And that's, it's just it's the way of life. Yeah. And, you know, you just got to understand your limitations and still push yourself.
Yeah, and just ignore them and then, no.
Yeah, push yourself, see what you can do, and be surprised by what you know, surprise yourself with how much you can do. But on the flip side, you have to be aware of your limitations and make sure you give yourself enough space to center again, to kind of bring yourself back home, wherever your home base is. You know, bring yourself back to your home base. Deep breath, you know, kind of recoup a little bit, and then go out and hit it again. Because if you just keep running those bases and hitting home runs and stuff, you're just going to exhaust yourself, and you're going to tire yourself out before the race is run.
And a great example, I mean, you're using a baseball analogy. Baseball players get a day off every so often. You know what I mean? Like, no matter they're, like, usually older players, but sometimes the younger guys too, you know, especially if they're a star-type player, you know. They'll play 3-4 games, and then the coach will, hey, you know, we're giving you the day off kind of a thing. Like if there was a doubleheader or a night game, and then the next day you're playing, you know, the guys will get that off so they're not overdoing it, you know, coach, because, you know, especially in baseball, it's 162 games. So much like life, you know, it's every day you know, you're hustling, so you got to get up and you're, what am I doing today? What is this? What is this? Or even if you're not like me, I get up and I have that pressure of you have to do, you know, that I fight with and stuff. So it's all tiring. And like you said, if you're doing it every day, you know, that's why people need their weekends after working Monday through Friday or whatever. You know, you got to have
You got to recoup.
Yep.
So that's, you know, that's what we're both going to be working on. I think those are good goals for the coming week.
Yeah. But
something that is actually been brought to mind recently that I wanted for us to talk about, kind of maybe our topic of the day, is setting up a support structure. And a lot of us, it's inherent that we're kind of grew grow up with our support structure, whether it's our family, our friends,
Mm-hmm.
as long as you stay pretty much in the same town that you've been, you have an inherent support structure around you. Where I think it gets difficult is when you branch out and you try something completely different, like move to a new city, or, go somewhere where you really don't know many people. And a very close friend of mine did that. Last year, she up and moved to Denver and loves her life, loves the city, loves her job, and inherently everything is perfect, except she's struggling building a support structure for herself. And it's so tough because, when I talk to her and we talk a lot about that, and she's making friends. So, it's not just meeting people and making friends, but there's differences between a friend and a support.
Yeah, because if nothing else, I mean, a lot of people, you can have work friends that, or like when you're in school, you have school friends, but then on the weekends you're not hanging out with them. But all day in school, you're in classes together and you talk and all this. But maybe you hang out on the weekends, but generally you don't, kind of a thing or whatever. Same with this. It's like you can have those friends that are work friends, or you're friendly enough with them, but then it's like, I don't feel comfortable enough telling you about this or that in my life because we don't know each other that well,
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. Or they'll listen to you, but they don't fully understand it all, or, it's more of they're placating you versus truly, getting into it with you.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I run into the issue of a lot of times as I've gotten older, I see how many people ask another person, how are you? And it's not, they're generally not, a lot of people are not looking for a real answer. They just want you to go fine, not bad, whatever. They want a 1 or 2 word thing and then they move on. They don't want you to go, it's been really tough. I've been, they don't want any of that. Right. So if you kind of feel that off of somebody, that immediately you're like, oh, I'm not going to talk to them,
Yeah, and that's the thing, and it's so tough because I don't even quite know what to say because I've never been in that situation myself.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine how incredibly difficult that's got to be.
Yeah.
And the first place, in one thing that I've recommended for her, like the first place to go is you got to get comfortable being with yourself.
Yeah.
And it's so tough, how often, especially for women, because, not to downplay men and what you guys go through and your struggles, and you maybe completely relate, I can't say.
Yeah.
But I do hear it more often from women. I can't go to dinner by myself.
Yeah, because, the stigma is way more there for women than it is men. Because, oh, how sad, she's by herself. A pretty girl like her, I'm just... Yeah. Whereas if some guy just goes, it's like, meh. It's...
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's, it's tough. It's tough for anybody to do anything by yourself.
Now, I will say, in fairness, a lot of times, there may not be anybody who says that.
That's all in your head, right?
Yeah, it could very much be, and this goes to, and I people with depression especially, you run through this, but it's, you think everybody in the room is being judgmental of you, and probably no one in the room, maybe one person, is even talking about you. It's so narcissistic, but it doesn't seem like it's narcissistic, which is why when we took that test on salty language, remember, I was like, wow, I tested really high on a narcissism thing, and then I was like, I don't get it, and then I thought about it, I was like, you know what, I think about myself a lot.
Right.
But I don't think of it in like a me kind of attitude. I think of it more in a, like, that kind of a thing, to where it's like, oh, if I go in this room, they're all going to think I'm fat, or they're going to this about me, or, you know what I mean?
It's not positive narcissism.
Yeah, exactly.
Narcissism.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. At least if you're going to be a narcissist, be a positive one.
I mean, it's just, well, and that's the first thing that I told, so I told her, I'm like, you got to get comfortable being with yourself.
Yeah.
And yourself is good enough.
Right.
I said, you have to get to that point. And when you invite people to do things with you, you're inviting them along. You're not asking them to come. You're inviting them to come.
Yeah.
There's a big difference, because if you're reliant, like you can't go without them, or you're too reliant on them, it's not healthy for you, right. First of all, and sets up unrealistic expectations on them that they're not asking for.
Absolutely, yep.
They don't want to sign up to be your life preserver.
No.
And
on the flip side of that, they don't want to sign up for an anchor.
Yeah.
Like if they feel you're going to be an anchor, a lot of people don't want to sign up for that.
Right.
So,
it's a difference. And it's so tough, because you got to hit that right level. But on the flip side, you want to be yourself.
Yeah.
Because nobody likes someone who's not being themselves.
Right. It really does come back to, like you were saying, it comes back to, essentially goes back to the old, you have to love yourself before you can expect anyone else to love you kind of a thing. It's in that vein. Because if you're not comfortable being alone, there's a lot of people that like going to the movie theater by themselves. They like going to dinner by themselves. And it isn't I hate people. Like, no negativity. It's just, I like that because it's like, I can enjoy. Angela's talked about it over on Angela's Awesome Podcast about when she eats, she takes her time so she enjoys eating, kind of a thing. And I could see the same thing. You're out to dinner. If you're with someone else, maybe you want to, especially if you're not with the person, like not a relationship, like you're just out with a friend. Maybe you speed up eating a little bit because they're eating kind of fast. You can just take your time and enjoy what you're doing.
Or you're talking with your friend and stuff and eating at the same time, so you're not really enjoying the food as much as you would be if you focused on it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what I'm saying. It's like, but it really is you've got to be comfortable with yourself, like you're saying, and then the rest of it becomes a little easier, because then you're not constantly going, well, what's wrong with me? Why can't I make friends? Why can't I? And again, you're right in my wheelhouse with this, because even though I haven't moved to a new city and whatever, I'll openly say part of the reason I didn't move to a new city, because out of high school, I'm from, we're from Toledo, Ohio, and I wanted to go to the Art Institute of Pittsburgh, and part of the reason I didn't go was the moving and the support system not being there. Because I was supposed to go with someone who was in school with us, and when that fell through, in my head, there went the support system.
Yeah, I can't go because I'm not going to know anybody.
Exactly, and that's it. I was done. There was zero chance at that point, or very little chance. I still thought about it, but there was very little chance. I ended up picking a school where, 4 people we went to high school with were at. You know what I mean? So that shows you, and realistically, I limited myself. I settled, if you will, for something that was not the most optimal choice, simply because of that doubt and that stuff. That's one of, and it, I've said it various times, that's one of my bigger regrets in life, is that I allowed that doubt in my head to change a course of my life. Now, who knows how things had turned out had I done it. Maybe things have been worse off. You never know. But I just still hate the fact that doubt ever has had and still has enough control over me to stop me from doing something, Exactly.
And that's, so that's step one. Step one is get comfortable with yourself and start doing things by yourself.
And also maybe recognize that if you may need some help along the way. And by support system, this can also include a mental health professional.
Absolutely.
A therapist of some sort, a psychologist, you may need to go for that to help you get to these points,
Yeah. I mean, definitely. And don't be afraid to use props. You can't just go cold turkey. You can't just go sit in a restaurant, eat a dinner by yourself, and not do anything. Just sit there, wait for your meal, have your meal, eat it, and leave. Some people, if you can do that, kudos to you.
Yeah.
Use props, people. Bring a book. Bring your phone. Bring your computer.
Your tablet. Yeah, exactly. Your phone, whatever.
Your tablet.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes.
Because now you can take that. Now you take that same woman we referenced earlier with, that poor girl eating all by herself. She's sitting there with, we'll use a laptop, even though most people now would probably have their phone or tablet device. But whatever. Right. Picture whatever you want to picture here. You're sitting there and you're doing something.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you might be on Twitter or looking at the National Enquirer website or just something mindless, right? But
Kitty memes.
But other people may be looking at you, and they may think that you're doing some sort of work.
Mm-hmm.
Now maybe they don't feel bad for you. Now, and in your head you can kind of turn that dial a little bit because they see you doing whatever, and it doesn't seem, I don't know, it doesn't seem as sad as the other did.
Yeah.
Even though it might be every bit as sad, you're like, well, I don't have any friends, and maybe you're on your dating profile looking at, how you're not getting any messages, or you know what I mean? It could
right,
be,
but still.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and go to a movie and go to things that where you're watching, like go to a game by yourself, go take part in things that you want to, go to the theater if you want to see a show. I mean, I think the two pieces that you should always, when you're trying to get okay with being by yourself, two things to always focus on is props and things that you really want to do.
Yeah.
So, if it's something that you really want to do,
yeah,
and there's nobody else going, screw that. Don't even ask anybody.
It's funny because there's some things I would almost like. I love baseball. Most of my friends and such don't love baseball the way I love baseball. In such that, the example is that no matter what game I go to, unless it's a blowout, I want to stay till the end. I want to watch the whole game. I love the ins and outs of the game. I love the craftsmanship of pitching. I am a huge baseball nerd. Most people don't. They don't want to stay past about the 6th, 7th inning. Then they're like, I'm done. Let's go, whatever. I hate that. I hate leaving baseball games early, right? I don't go by myself, but I had kind of joked about moving more toward our downtown in Toledo. And I was like, if I did, I bet I would go to baseball games all the time by myself. Because it's fine. I love the game so much. I don't need somebody to talk to through the game. Like, I love baseball, So something like that would be a great example. Find something that you, that you really, really enjoy. Like you said, whether it's the movies. Movies are seemingly easier because you don't have to worry about a lack of dialogue. Mm-hmm. Because the movie's going. So who's talking? You just shouldn't be talking anyway. But but like I said, for me it would be a baseball game. Like there's some games like I wouldn't want to go to a hockey game by myself. I love hockey, but it's part of that is being part of, with your friends in the crowd. Baseball I'm fine with because I just want to focus on the game the whole time anyway.
So I mean, I think those are the key things. Now, once you get yourself comfortable being by yourself, so you're comfortable doing things by yourself, the next step is to invite people in on your fun. And that's the key. You're not asking them to bring the fun. You are inviting them into your fun.
Yeah.
So, one thing, like for example, if you're talking with someone, you want them to go do something with you. Like, hey, I'm checking out this new restaurant tonight.
Yeah. I've
heard they're really, really good food. If you'd like to join me, I think it would be fun for us to hang out.
Right.
See, already you're setting the precedence of, I'm going regardless.
Yeah.
I would like you to come with me.
Right.
Versus the other way of saying it is like, hey, did you hear about this new restaurant? You want to go check it out sometime? I was thinking maybe tonight if you're free.
Yeah.
That has two different connotations. Neither's wrong. Both are very right. Very acceptable. But one is, I want to hang out with you. I've heard about this really cool restaurant.
Yes.
The other is, I heard about this really cool restaurant I'm going to. I would like you to come with me.
Right. And the other side of that is if a person says no, to still be able to go.
Yes.
Because otherwise you're back to kind of square one in that, like, oh, hey, there's this restaurant I want to check out. You want to go with me? And be like, okay, well, maybe later. And then you're just like, well, maybe I don't want to go. And you just like, you can't.
Yeah.
If you don't push past that, then you've kind of still, you've never left the comfort zone. Kind of. You have a little bit because you're putting yourself out there, and anytime you put yourself out there for anything, even like we discussed with Henno about like paying someone a compliment, you know, which I had never considered about how much you're putting yourself out there and letting someone control your emotion a little bit off of that, because they could just dismiss you or go, oh, thank you, and be really nice. You know, same with this. It's, you know, hey, there's this restaurant I really want to check out, because you know, that person could go, you want to try there? You know, like,
right.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, and then there's the follow-up.
Yeah.
You know, don't be afraid to follow up and let them know what's fun.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, hey, you know that restaurant I was going to check out last night?
Yeah.
Well, I know you couldn't come, but I went anyways. And man, was that food amazing.
Right.
Next time, let me know when you're free, and you know, we'll head out there and
Right.
you can check it out too.
You go another step further with social media the way it is too, and, you know, tweet or Instagram pictures and be like, blah, blah, basically like, look how much fun this is.
Yeah.
You know,
a
kind of
picture
make
of your
people
meal.
go, man, I wish I would have went. You know?
Exactly. And then pretty soon, see, there's two sides to it, because you don't want to be fake. You know, a big underline on that. You don't want to be fake. There's a kind of a spin you got to put on it.
Yeah.
You know, you got to do a little bit of fake it till you make it. But more than that, you need to make sure you do the prep work and get comfortable with yourself, so that truly is fun.
Right. And I will say this, like, really, I think especially if you're moving to a new city and stuff, like, if you really are having a hard time finding a confidant kind of person that you can really talk with and all that kind of stuff, I really think that actually may be one of the best reasons to go to a therapist kind of a person ever.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from just normal mental health, but it's like so you're just not carrying that weight. Kind of a thing. Now, don't get me wrong. I know, you know, a lot of people don't want to, and this and that, and I get it. I totally do. I don't go to one myself. I totally understand, you know, but I can see where that would make a ton of sense, of some sort of a counselor or a group of some sort even. And that's another option, you know. There's always those kind of things, you know.
Absolutely.
And I don't necessarily mean like a book club, but it could be, you know, if you have similar interests, why not, you know? Because at that point, again, if you just go to a book club and join it, you know, you are doing something you enjoy by yourself. You could do it with a friend, but whatever, you could still do it yourself. Join it, go talk with other people about books, and you never know, you know, you might find other similarities at that point.
Exactly. Which kind of brings me to number 3, which is, you know, social gatherings and getting yourself out there. Join clubs that interest you. Do things that interest you.
That's
and
funny,
pretty soon you're going to start seeing people and meeting people that have the same interests as you.
That's really funny. I haven't seen your list that you're going off of.
Honestly,
I just jumped you ahead
going
one.
off a list.
Oh, okay. I thought you were. Okay. I was going to say I jumped one ahead of you. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, you did. But that's all right, because this is just stuff I've been thinking about. I actually don't have a list on this one. But the number 3 is, you know, is finding common interests with people around you.
Yeah.
And don't set unrealistic expectations.
Yeah.
You know, when you go to a book club, go because you want to learn about the book and read the book.
Yeah.
If you have conversations with people about the book and they're good, great. But don't read into it. That's a conversation about the book. You had a wonderful experience communicating with somebody else. Perfect. You know, that's a great interaction.
Yeah, just because you guys bond over the Da Vinci Code doesn't mean that you're now besties, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, like just the same as if you were going on dates. Don't go on 3 dates and, oh my God, I'm in love. You know what I mean? Like, slow down. Like,
and it's tough. And by no means, everything that I've said up to this point, I have done the wrong thing. I have made these mistakes, not just once, multiple times. You know, and I probably will do them again. So, you know, I'm like, just because I can say it doesn't mean I can necessarily do it.
Right.
But that being said, you know, these are things that will help you. And even if you make mistakes, even if you fall off the gravy train and you can't go out to that restaurant by yourself like you wanted to,
yeah,
it's okay. You know, which brings me to number 4. Talk to yourself like you would talk to anybody else. Don't beat yourself up. We did a whole episode on the inner bully.
Which is one that, by the way, I want to mention. I was going to talk about it a little later, but we're kind of at a segue real quick anyway.
Yeah.
That episode, we had some things, and that one's one that I don't think has gotten the attention that it deserves, because I think that was a really good episode. So if you have not listened to that, it's episode 7. And the link, go to our site or whatever, and the link's there. You can find it, or if you need it, you can always, hit us up on Twitter, and we'll send you a direct link or whatever, or find it on iTunes, whatever. But it's episode 7, Inner Bully.
Yeah, it's a really solid episode of ours, and I think the topic is very on point.
Yeah.
To a lot of things happening today.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it's one of those episodes that even if you don't suffer really from mental illness, we all beat ourselves up. We all do it. Everybody has self-doubt, so I think it's just a good episode. And that's also one where you might learn something about, again, people around you, how they approach a room or whatever, So I think there's just good stuff to be learned there.
Absolutely. And it's such a key. Do not, if you catch yourself, just like if you catch somebody screaming at somebody else, within reason, of course.
Yeah.
Most people would interject.
Yeah.
Or like, ooh, ouch, harsh, come on.
Right.
Back off type of a thing, right? But you do it to yourself all the freaking time.
Yeah.
Back off. Tell that bully to leave you alone. Back off.
Right.
And focus on the positives. Find the positives in the day. Claim your wins, like we keep talking about over and over again.
Yep.
Claim your wins.
Yep.
Say, I did this. I'm proud of myself. I'm claiming it. I'm telling people about it.
Yep.
That is my win.
So I said, and we've said this countless times, even if the average person or your friends or whatever would see it as just the dumbest little thing, it's like, no, listen, that's a really big deal for me. Like sometimes little things can be major breakthrough type stuff. Like that a change in just one little thing in your life can really change your perspective, or just change your attitude on something. Sometimes it doesn't take a whole lot, and
exactly.
And looking for those wins. It's like I said, I had a guidance counselor or a teacher in high school that she saw I was writing a bunch of negative stuff because we had to keep journals, and the teacher read the journals, and mine were constantly negative. And she pulled me aside and was like, I want you to write one positive thing every day in this. One thing you did that made you happy or something like that. Every day you have to put at least one in here. And, and it made a difference because it wasn't that I wasn't becoming obsessed on the negativity. It forced me to change how I, when I was thinking, when I was writing, that I had to put a positive spin on there somewhere.
Yeah. And that's really, you gotta focus on those positive things, cut yourself some slack. It's okay. And find yourself a mantra. Mm-hmm. Whether Stuart Smalley's is, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me.
Yeah.
That's what does it for you. Great. I'm a 10.
Yeah.
That's a big one for me. I tell myself all the time I'm a 10. In the scheme of things, am I really a 10? No. But I tell myself I am one.
Yeah.
When I look in the mirror, I'm like, you are a 10.
Yeah.
And I make sure that if I'm going out, especially if I'm doing something by myself, I wear clothes that are comfortable.
Yep.
That aren't too tight, that I think make me look cute, that I feel really sexy in and comfortable and confident. I make sure that my makeup's on the way I like it. And so when I walk in that room, I know I'm a 10.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I am one.
Right.
Because I believe it.
Yeah, because you've set your confidence. Because you're not worrying and doubting the other stuff. Yeah, that's
exactly.
And that's big. There's a lot of people that, I mean, man, I don't know how many people you see on online posting selfies, and every one of them has got like 1 million filters on it, or everyone like. And don't get me wrong, I know there's some women who are like, they get up, shower, makeup, like doesn't matter what they're doing that day, that's just the regimen, and that's fine, But there's some that you just will never see a picture of them without like full at its peak makeup, and you know, kind of a thing. And it's just like, man, you know, but if that's what it takes for a person to do that, that's fine. You know, that's on the individual.
I call it putting on your armor.
Right. I'll be honest, dead honest, before I do most selfies, I'll go make sure that, because I, you know, have a skin condition where I kind of, it's similar to like psoriasis kind of a thing. And, you know, so I'll look to see if I've got like flakes in my beard, or I'll look to see if my beard's all over the place, because it tends to do that sometimes, unless I'm trying to, like my avatar on Twitter right now, where I pushed my beard up and it's just all over the place.
Yeah.
But I almost always put my glasses on, like, because I like the way I look better in my glasses. So I'm not putting makeup on, but I'm doing those things. I never or rarely ever use a filter. If I do, generally it's to turn it something black and white. That's usually about all I ever do.
And another game I play, if I go out by myself, even though I do have a boyfriend I'm very committed to, I still play the game of which one of these men wishes they were with me. And I look around.
I don't play that game.
Any person of whatever sexual gender you choose,
right?
You go and you look at everybody. You don't act upon it.
Right.
You don't have to. You can. You don't have to.
Yeah.
You look around the room and you look at the different people, and it's not the people that you would like to hit on you. It's the people that you know they would like to be with me.
Yeah.
That they see me and they wish they were sitting next to me.
Right.
You know, and you just go around the room and you just know it. You see different people and you're like, I know you want to be with me. It's okay. So yeah, I see you checking me out versus the woman you're with. I get you.
Now, see, it's funny because even though according to, you know, the test I took, I'm you know, a decent number on the narcissism scale, I can't do that. Like, I just can't do that. That's not something I've ever been able to do. Like, let me rephrase. I could do it, but I won't buy into it. It's just not, you know, like so it's not going to work for me.
Well,
but
you know what I have to say to that? You believe anything you tell yourself.
Oh, I know. And that's, and I fully understand that. That's why, you know, I mean, you know, depression, you know, a huge part of depression is the self-doubt.
Yep.
You know,
exactly.
Like I said, it's, you know, you see people all the time that are very attractive that suffer from depression, and then they'll end up staying home because, well, if I go, so-and-so's going to this and that, and it's, you know, it's a crippling mentality sometimes.
And I don't want you guys to overlook that little gem I just said in there. You believe 100% of the things you tell yourself.
Right.
So if you tell yourself negatives, you're going to believe negatives.
Yeah.
If you tell yourself positives, you're going to believe positives.
Right, and that's where a lot of people run into an issue with depression, because they think you can just think happy thoughts. It's like, yeah, you can't do that. That's where the problem is.
You got to believe it. You got to tell yourself these happy thoughts. You've got to point them out.
Right. I can tell myself all the things I want to tell myself, but when I'm standing there going, no. You know, it doesn't work when you're doing that, you know.
Yeah, and repeat. I mean,
yeah, that's why I said
when
we first talked about the Stuart Smalley thing, like not on this episode, but on the previous one, when I was like, I literally, if you picture a wrestler walking through the curtains, like how you figure behind the curtain, they're standing there kind of jumping around and getting amped up. I'm not kidding you when I say I do that before I go anywhere. I do that in the bathroom. I'll stand in the mirror, look at myself, basically give myself the Stuart Smalley speech. You're good enough. You're fine. You got this. And then go do something. Like, I almost have to completely give myself like a pep talk before I can, you know.
And you gotta, and if it doesn't work the first time, repeat it. Sorry, my laundry, if you hear that.
All right.
That means my laundry's done.
I thought it was the end of the period. Like, oh, all right.
But, yeah, you just got to keep repeating it, repeating it. Because you've set yourself, just like anything, you have to practice.
Yeah.
So you've got to practice positive thinking. You got to practice positive outlooks on life and take baby steps.
Yeah.
You're not going to be perfect. You are not going to ace it every time.
Right.
It's okay. If you set yourself up, you're going to have a good day. You go out there, you have a crappy one. That's okay.
Yeah.
Things happen.
The key to that is that you don't go you don't beat yourself up that you're a loser or that you this or that, that you know, it
And
just,
stop.
because you just remind yourself that no matter what it is, like there's rarely anything where somebody has like 100% win record.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's no sport out there where people have, you know, don't get me wrong. There's some boxers out there that have never lost, and you know, like Ronda Rousey's never lost in the UFC and stuff. But
she's failed at things.
yeah, exactly. And I'm sure if you ask her, she'll tell you she's failed at things. It's, you know,
She'll tell you she's lost fights. They may not have been the ring,
right.
but she's lost fights. I know she has. At some point in her life, she's lost a fight.
Oh, for sure. Well, she did a lot of like judo and jiu-jitsu and stuff, but she was, I think she was a bronze medalist in the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
So right there, I mean, you're bronze, you're not gold.
She wasn't
so.
gold. Yep.
But at the same time, she's got all the confidence in the world because she's a world-class athlete, but you don't become a world-class athlete without that confidence. You can't. Michael Jordan isn't going to take game-winning shots if he doesn't believe he can make them, you know.
And you know what? I'm a world-class Jen, and you're a world-class Brian. You know, we're world-class in what we do.
Right.
Because we're the only ones that can do it.
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like nobody else can be me.
Right.
You know? And I think I'm pretty damn amazing. And is it overconfidence? Yes. Is it truly how I feel 100% of the time? No, not even close.
Right.
But I have to tell myself these things. I have to over-exaggerate because I over-exaggerate the negative.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, if you're going to over-exaggerate one portion of it, you got to over-exaggerate the other portion so that you even yourself out.
Yeah.
You know, get your confidence up because you are amazing for who you are.
Right. And like, you know, to kind of, you know, go back to the overall topic with the, you know, transitioning or the support system thing, it's if you realize that you can't do it on your own, that's where the support system is so important. But even if you move away, you generally have friends, family, and again, you know, I think stuff like Skype make a huge difference.
True.
Because before, just talking to somebody on the phone or via text, it's so impersonal. There's no warmth to it.
Yeah.
Whereas FaceTime, Skype, anything along those lines, hell, even Voxer, where you hear, you know, can different times where you could leave a message for somebody and come back. I know that's kind of like a phone call or whatever, but it's like, you know, but these ones where you can see people face to face, it makes such a difference. Like, you know, talking on like Salty Language, when we've done the enthusiast episodes where we've interviewed people and we have them up on there, you feel like you're sitting in a conversation with the people. You feel like you're just sitting somewhere, you know, talking. You don't feel like it's a phone call. It feels there's more to it. So, you know, even if you have to get on and use Skype for somebody back home or whatever, you know, that, you know, you use all the tools at your, you know, disposal.
Absolutely.
You know, because listen, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, people for years have moved away from home and then called mom and dad just because they need that feeling of home. People in the military all the time. Like, you know, seeing it now with knowing people in the military and how when they can Skype with their spouse and their kids, they aren't missing as much as they missed before because you still can see your kids a little and interact and versus just the phone. So no matter who you are, if you move, you kind of can take your support system with you a little bit better than you used to be able to, you know. But if you have to completely find a new support system, I understand it's, you know, that's where all this is about is, you know.
Sure. And that's how it is. I mean, obviously she's got me in her life and she's got, you know, family members and stuff that are also a support for her. So it's just, it's finding it's recognizing where your strength comes from, not giving your strength away.
Yeah.
You know, and
well, it's not even just that necessarily of giving it away. It's making sure you can find it.
Yeah.
Because if you can't find it, you can't give it away. You know, like you've got to be able to find your strength. Because like I said, like right now, if a prospect came up for me and I had to move away from where I'm at, I don't know that I'd want to because of the support system thing. Like I'd be feel like I'm giving up my support system. And I also know that even though once I get around people enough, I'm good at talking with people, I'm terrible at starting conversations with people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a major problem, you know?
Right.
When it comes to starting...
skills.
Yeah, when it comes to finding new support systems and friends and such, it's very difficult when you don't really start conversations.
Yeah. It's building... These are skills that we haven't had to use since we were, in grade school?
Yeah.
You know, these are all skills that you have to keep practicing.
Well,
you got to keep learning them.
A lot of people do whenever they start a new job.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, or again, you know, staying on top, or if you do move, but you know, most people have experienced new work where you have to make new school friends. You know, it's like you said, you probably haven't had to do it really since school. You know,
yeah.
That's why I like the people who were like the spouses of the military members. You know, at moving every couple years or something. And I was like, just the idea of having to try to find new friends every couple years, or face the opposite, which is basically kind of the solitary living. It's just I you know, huge
Kudos
admiration
to them
for
doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's great when they can. It's got to really stink when it's hard for them to do it, you know.
Yeah. And then the last point I want to make is other people's shortcomings are not your fault. You know, just because somebody doesn't want to do something or can't do something, or, you know, whatever it is, if they opt out on something, that's not your fault. It's not because of you. It's not. Maybe it is.
I was going to say it might be, but yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Ultimately, all you need to focus on is, I'm doing this because I'm having a good time, and if they want to join me, they're welcome to, because I'd love to have the company.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to almost take a selfishness to it.
Well, I can give a great example of this, and this is, Tony and Jeannie that I referenced earlier. They want to go, you know, they've wanted me to go on vacation with them, like on a cruise kind of a thing. And I have an aversion to cruises. So, and, you know, but like Jeannie, you know, it's kind of like, I love spending time with you. You're fun. I love this. But we're still going to do this. Like, if you go, that's excellent. But if you don't, we're still going to do this. And there's no judgment. It's just, that's how it is. Everybody understands each other. We know the parameters of comfort zones and all this stuff. So it's that. You know, there's no negativity in it. It's simply, we want to do this. We want you to come with us. We'll do whatever we can do to help make this easy for you. But if you can't, we understand. You know, kind of a thing. And that's what you're looking for in a support system or whatever in life, you know? So it's, not everybody gets that, but that, you know, I'm fortunate to have that, and I've got you and family, and, you know, it's the other thing. One thing I'll say too on support systems is make sure you thank people at times.
True.
For doing what they do, especially those of us with mental illness, because again, we do, and you should understand how difficult it is being on that side of the fence, you know, and having to deal with a lot of rejection at times, you know, and not taking that to heart. So yeah, make sure you tip your wait staff once in a while.
Exactly. And that's, I think the keys to take away from it is get comfortable with yourself, set yourself up for success, do things because you want to do them, not because you need somebody with you.
Yeah.
You know, and just focus on the enjoyment of the event, and the support will come. You know, people will come naturally to you, and they'll slowly gravitate towards you, and you'll find yourself surrounded with more people that truly care about you and want to be a part of your life. And those that don't, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Does not mean it's you.
Right. It's like the people who obsess over, you know, you find out somebody at work doesn't like you, and some people just cannot live with that. And it's like, listen, first of all, you got to accept that you're not necessarily all the sunshine in the world. Second of all, even if you're a great person, doesn't mean everybody's going to love you. That's just how it is, you know? So it's...
Right. And it just...
But that doesn't make you a bad person. Doesn't make them a bad person either. I mean, it might be, but that doesn't,
It doesn't mean you change. It doesn't mean you figure out a way to make them like you. Doesn't mean anything like that. Who knows and who cares why they aren't coming to your support?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
It's irrelevant. I'm trying to say.
Irrelevant, yeah.
Thank you.
I will say this one thing, though, is even though you do stuff that you want to do and then invite others to you, also be open to the vice versa of that.
Absolutely.
Which is if that friend you're making or whatever, if they want you to do something that maybe you're like, sometimes you got to bite the bullet and go do something you don't want to do because you appreciate the person as well. Or, plus you never know. Sometimes, you might find something that you enjoy out of it,
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, definitely there's the give and take through it all. But it's all in how you look at it. It's finding, again, we use that wonderful B word, it's finding the balance.
Yep.
It's all about finding the balance.
Yep.
But you got to be good with you first.
Yep.
And know where your balance point is before you make steps other ways.
Yep.
So it just, I mean, I think it's about time for us to kind of do our wrap up. But I just wanted to shout out some love to my friend who's going through some rough times. And those of you who can understand where she's coming from and have struggled with stuff like that, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll make sure she gets your messages and she gets your input as well, because I know that'll mean a lot to her as well.
Yeah.
But she's doing good. She shot me a message not too long ago saying that tonight she's going to a concert and going out to dinner and going to a concert. So I don't know if she's going with somebody or by herself, but she's doing good and she's fighting through the dark stuff. But any words of encouragement or any stories you wish to share, I'd be more than happy to pass them along to her.
Yeah, because it's tough. I don't know where she's at, compared to like the crap I deal with, but it's tough, and it's nice to hear sometimes that, like I've said before, the thing that made me feel better than anything else was when that doctor looked at me and said, "You're not alone." Like this is common. So there you go.
Exactly. It is.
So what's your, do you have a win for the week?
My win for the week is, what is my win for the week? You know what? My win for the week is, even though I've been crazy busy and overstressing myself, I've still made a priority of me. And I really tried to manage the best I could given the schedule that I had.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big win for me. I didn't have any breakdowns. I didn't overreact at anything. I kind of felt myself get out of control sometimes, so I pulled myself back, and I was a little quieter in some situations and others. I didn't drink at different points because I could feel myself going a little cuckoo.
Right.
So I backed away from the alcohol, drank some water, just kind of chilled, and I feel very good and very proud of myself for how I managed through kind of a crazy last couple weeks.
Good. Yeah. Yeah, that's very important because that's been kind of your theme for the last couple weeks. Is that you've been really kind of teetering back and forth, and you're hopefully you get that middle somewhere here soon because it seems like you're close. So
yeah, I'm getting closer to it.
Yeah, it takes a little time sometimes. That's fine. Yeah.
Yep. How about you? What's your win?
Mine's similar in that, even though I've done multiple podcasts in a week before, and I've done this, and I've done, it's really difficult for me when I feel like I have to be on for more than 1 or 2 days in a row to not want to, not just run, to not cancel on something else and just run and hide, basically. And I think, this weekend, from Friday on till today, honestly, it's the fact that I haven't done that. My anxiety was through the roof before I even left on Saturday, or before we did our podcasts Friday. It was just all week my anxiety was just going crazy, And I was able to keep telling myself, no, because like this is something you enjoy. You like this. Don't talk yourself out of this. You like this. This is going to be fun. Now, I was a little off, but, you know, no, mostly it was fun except for, you know, about half an hour. But, because, you know, once I was in there and stuff, it was, you know, but it's the fact that I was able to kind of tell myself, you know, like, hey, you're being irrational. Like, this is good. Recognize this is good. Because I know how hard it is for me to recognize and accept being content in a moment. I'm bad at it. I know I'm bad at it. It's something I always fight against, but I try, you know, and I think I had a small, you know, it's a win for the week, because even though it was a small one, I still feel like I did pretty well this weekend.
Heck yeah, you made it through.
Yeah.
You didn't cancel on anything.
Right.
You know, you completed your tasks and you fought through the anxiety and the stress. So that's a huge win.
Yeah. So
that is absolutely a huge win.
Right. So I
with
guess
that, folks.
Well, real quick. Oh, actually, never mind. Go ahead.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I was going to do my bit, but go ahead and do your bit first.
Okay. So if you want to continue the conversation with me, you can definitely reach out to me on Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life. I'm sorry I don't post much, but I do check it often, and I do receive the messages. So if you direct message me or you message me on something, I definitely will respond and answer to you. So please reach out to me if you want to talk with me. I'd love to hear from you. You can also reach the show at the Crazy Life Podcast at Outlook.com. You can catch the links and our Twitter feeds and stuff at thecrazylife.weebly.com at our website. And how about you, Brian?
You can find me on Twitter at Stunami. As I mentioned earlier, if you want to see a couple pictures I posted from the Beer Fest weekend, they're up on my Instagram at Stunami. Also. And the other podcasts I'm on, Salty Language, is at saltylanguage.com. Or on Twitter, we're salty_language. Forgot what I was going to... I feel like I'm missing a plug there. Anyway, that's good enough. But I also, you know, obviously want to point out that we're not doctors, therapists. We're not trained professionals. We're just two people making our way through, through life with our issues. So if you are a person who needs help and recognize it, you know, please go seek the help. Don't try to deal with it yourself. I know you feel strong enough. I know you think you can. It's not a sign of weakness if you do. It's sometimes, you know, a soldier's no good without a weapon sometimes, you know, so you need some help once in a while. So go get the help you need. You know, whether it's a therapist, your doctor, or reach out to us for, you know, if you just need someone to talk to, you can reach out to us. But if you need a therapist or such, then please go find, you know, someone to actually help you.
And if it really gets dark, people, and you can't see any other way out, make sure you call the hotlines.
Yeah, the suicide hotline number, or
Yep, call the suicide hotlines. Call people, talk to people, even when you don't feel like you want to, that you don't feel like anyone's listening. You've got to reach out because you are worth it.
I'll tell you what, and I haven't mentioned this on the show before, but this is actually something that I should have mentioned before, which is I don't know how many times I've seen on Twitter, late at night usually, you know, 2, 3, 4 in the morning, you know, when people are alone with their thoughts a lot of times, and I've seen somebody that's just like, I'm in a bad way, somebody please help, kind of a thing. I've seen it a bunch of times. I've reached out to people and been like, you know, what do you need? You just need to talk. And I've talked. I mean, I got on Kick with a girl one night. She was like 23 or something like that, and she had just gone through. I'm not going to spill all her stuff, but she went through a whole mess of stuff within like a week of her life. And I talked to her probably on Kick for about 4 hours. And at the end, she was like, I feel so much better. She's like, thank you so much. And I'm like, just all I ask, don't do anything drastic. If you feel worse, hit me up because I'm up stupid late. I'm like, or, you know, call one of these numbers or something. I'm like, please don't, you know, and I put that out there for everybody every week. If you just need someone to talk to, hit me up. I'm up ridiculous hours generally. I'm usually up when people are at their worst point. So,
Right.
But yeah, the only other thing I'll say for this week is stay hydrated.
Yes. Stay hydrated, have fun, and get yourselves out there. Enjoy the world.
Yep.
We'll see you guys next week.